Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation. My name is Dave Quadrelli. Joining me is Patrick Johnston of the province. You've got a lot of artwork back there. I really
that's what one day, David, maybe you'll be a dad and maybe you'll have all this stuff behind you.
I've already got some
stuff
artwork
over here. The booze is over here.
Gotta put that behind you. Okay.
Yeah.
So this episode of Canucks Conversation, been a while, folks, is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, the home of our electric watch parties during the season and our off-season chill spot at this time of year. Make Greta your spot to eat, drink, and play this summer. So a thing I've realized is there's a lot of different sports games on right now, and I know I don't sound like someone who watches sports when I say it like that, but usually we advertise and say, go to Greta to watch the Blue Jays. Look, they do still have Blue Jays games on. You can go watch them there. There's a lot of soccer games on that people are caring about right now. And right now, Patrick, I was out in your neck of the woods watching Canada against Argentina. And I don't follow soccer too closely, but it was a nice reminder that soccer is just a pathetic sport. Like, I can't get behind soccer. I can't. I played it growing up. I watched it growing up. And I was just reminded yesterday watching that game, Canada-Argentina, why I ultimately don't really care about soccer or watch it that much.
It's a communal thing. First of all, David, you're Italian. So what?
So I watch Italy and I know that Italy lost in the first round against Norway or something.
Oh, so you're saying because they're out, you don't care?
No.
It's just pure nationalism. Is that what it is?
Yes, actually, yes. I'll watch Italy. I'll watch Canada, Italy, because it makes my grandpa happy. We'll watch that together. Sure, but they've missed World Cups and stuff or whatever. But I cannot fathom caring about I just found out England and Netherlands were playing. I can't watch that. I just won't.
Dramatic finish. That's why it was a scramble to get started here. I'm just gonna be clear. It was we were late starting because of me.
That makes it way worse. I did not know you were late because of a soccer game. That makes it way
literally
worse.
They scored in the 90th minute, Dave. It was almost the last minute. It was a dramatic game. I was trying to finish the story that I filed today. I had to talk to a colleague about another story. Yeah,
they got you writing soccer? You're writing about soccer?
No. I was just watching because you have it on while you're working. Don't you have things on while you're working, Dave? Or are you just purely focused?
But if I have somewhere to be, I'm not I gotta focus.
It's down the hall. It's in my living room.
All I know is you were late for work, Patrick. That's going on your record.
Right. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Okay. No, but I am really happy that you're here, and I'm really, really happy that you're my
co-host. Go find J-Pat. I'm out of here.
Harmon is in Spain. For people that don't know,
what a guy! Unbelievable.
June 17th, Harmon's going to be back. We're going to have the Spain travel diaries.
So next year.
Excuse me, July. I almost forgot that it's already July. July 17th, Harmon will be back. We'll be having another episode. I'll be back next week with Irfan Ghaffar. But today, Patrick and I have a lot to dive into. We're going to have a baseball quiz during anyone else. I've got my Blue Jays today shirt on.
I'm wearing my rugby shirt. I wore this in a recent post-media video. There we go.
There you go. Very nice. Very nice. How's Chappie? Paul Chapman, how's he
Chappie's
feel about
soccer?
Well,
he'll be very relieved. You know what? Why don't I message right now? Quads wants to know how you're feeling.
Yeah,
and I'll find out. And if he gets back to me, Chappie, I'll be like Paul. David Quadrelli just discovered that there was a dramatic soccer game, and he wants to know how you're feeling.
How you feeling about the soccer sports? But this all brings me back to my original point that whatever the sport, you can go watch it at Greta Bar YVR. They've got you covered for all the latest things that people are caring about. And of course, they have all those fun games at the arcade. So go check out our friends, our presenting sponsor today at Greta Bar YVR. Okay, Patrick, we're going to talk about a few Canucks topics today. We're going to talk about moves that they might still make. But the first thing that you and I thought of when we were talking about brainstorming was, hey, it's little imply there's one player that hasn't been signed yet. And that is Arturs Silovs. Should people be panicking? What should people think about Arturs Silovs not having signed a contract with the Canucks yet?
I think it's tough to guess because first of all, you go back to the pre-draft press conference we had with Patrick Allvin, and Allvin basically, we can see him playing games in the NHL next year. Definitely positioning himself for possibly getting someone else. But then they went and get Yuri Patera, who signed to a 2-way deal, and nothing in his resume tells you this guy's going to be the backup over Arturs Silovs. So you're like, okay, so Silovs is still the plan. But they haven't signed him. But then you look and say, well, they got $1 million kind of left to fiddle with. So presumably that's him. And then, of course, there's the $2.5 million that currently is assigned to Tucker Poolman that I think they would love. They dream of not having to put on LTIR because they would love to accrue some cap space.
Okay, that's another topic for today. Quickly.
I think it's a big stare down. I think that's all it is right now is the agent's trying to see if he can grind a little more. Maybe somehow Patrick Allvin at some point finds a way to unload the contract. But I don't think even if that were to ever happen, I mean, we know he did tell me that, last spring that he tried to do that. If somehow he were ever to find a dance partner, I don't think that's happening until training camp. That is just me guessing, by the way. I have no information. That's just the best logical guess I could make if that were ever to happen, and I don't think it's going to happen.
So is
maybe his agent's sitting there going, "Oh, okay, maybe you're going to find a little more. You can give me a little more." But then, of course, there's no way they start training camp without Silovs as their backup. So then there's a few kind of things, straight threads there that you can kind of say, "Oh, what's this? What's that?" But I mean, at the end of the day, the most likely one is that he will sign a contract for $1 million and will be the backup next year.
So let's go to the topic of Tucker Poolman moving, because I think, ultimately, I agree with you. I think it just comes down to an agent saying, okay, well, maybe you can move something and maybe you can give my client a little more money because you moved this money out. So the Canucks have tried to move Tucker Poolman before his contract. Yeah. They've tried to move it $2.5 million on the books for this season. Patrick Allvin told you that. Has a thing for the guys named Patrick. Those goes
there you go.
They communicate with each other.
Guys with no hair named Patrick who wear glasses.
That's pretty exact, actually. There you
Allvin,
go.
by the way, people, I don't think anybody reported. Patrick Allvin was very keen observer during development camp, and was wearing a hat. I thought it was very interesting. It was almost like he was trying to, but he was standing with all the managers. So,
what kind of hat was he wearing?
What kind of hat? I couldn't tell. Yeah, just a baseball cap.
I didn't take him for a baseball cap guy. Oh, that's the other thing. That's a little piece of news. New Era is the new official headwear people of the NHL. Multi-year contract. I like that. I like that partnership because I'm sorry, if you're over the age of 13, you're probably not wearing a snapback. I don't know. I don't wear snapbacks. And you got these on-field caps by New Era, and they're beautiful. I think that's great for the NHL. I think that's really nice. But beyond that page, that's the thing I pointed out was the most important thing is that the NBA, NFL, all the major sport leagues are on the New Era page, except for the now.
So let me put it this way. I do not believe Allvin was wearing a New Era Canucks cap. I think he was just wearing, whatever a guy his age in his early 50s wears, who has got a little bit of money, can afford a nicer ball cap. It was not a particularly branded ball cap. I guess it might have been a golf hat. If J Pat were here, he could probably tell you from far away what the make and model and everything you need to know about.
That's a Callaway. That's a Callaway. He's
exactly
Callaway.
Whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
So apologize for the lack of reporting on that.
Back to the topic we were discussing was the movement of Tucker Poolman's contract. Accruing cap space really helps you at the trade deadline. And for those that don't get it, basically the easiest way to think about it is if you're under the upper limit of the salary cap and you're not in LTIR, which LTIR buys you cap space, if you're under that limit at the trade deadline, you're basically going to have double. So you're going
every day, even more. Every day you don't spend money, right? If you're not at the cap, you're not at the limit, every day you don't spend money, that amount of money for your daily expenditures goes in a piggy bank. And if you are able to carry on, adding to that piggy bank, as the season progresses, you may not be every day because you have to call people up, whatever. But if you can have a little bit of money to play with in that piggy bank at the trade deadline, you only have to pay the last sort of, I think it's probably third or quarter.
Yeah.
Of the player's salary.
Prorated. Yes.
It's about that. So as an example, we know that the Canucks were very interested in Chris Tanev last season. And at the end of the day, they couldn't make it work at the trade deadline because they just didn't have enough cap space to make a trade work. And, if they'd had more cap space to work with, they probably could have made the trade. In the end, they lost that to the Dallas Stars, who had other things to offer. But that's just one example. So, and they would have, in failing Tanev, they would have liked to add another winger. If they'd been able to add another winger because they didn't have to, they didn't need the other team to retain salary, that changes it all. So in their dream, Allvin mentioned it at the deadline. He wasn't accruing cap space. We know it's a dream he has. So I'm not saying it's a certainty, but even if they can get, for instance, Arturs Silovs under it's $1 million in change they have, as far as we know, on their salary cap that they currently have left open. If they can find a way to maneuver into that, and if they have a bit of change left over, they can start the year like that, and they'll have a little bit of money to work with.
Okay, let's go over some cap scenarios for the Canucks, Patrick. Let's talk about what it looks like if they don't move Poolman, what it might look like if they do move Poolman, and what that all means. Obviously, we know about the accruing cap space, but let's say that they keep Tucker Poolman. What opportunities does that unlock for this team?
Well, I mean, $2.5 million is a lot of stuff to work with, right? Like you can talk about finding a center that's not Pius Suter. Like I think Pius Suter's gonna be fine. I think Pius Suter was running some bad luck playing with Joshua and Garland before he got hurt. I think it's a fascinating possibility. He's a sharp player. He makes things better when he's on the ice. The Miller-Besser line was so much better when he was playing with them in terms of puck possession. And that's the kind of thing you want on your third line. So I am of the view that they're fine. That said, if somehow in this dream scenario, you're able to move off Tucker Poolman's $2.5 million, you would like to use that on a forward. Or, David, and we're going to talk about this in a little while, I think, you could use it on a defenseman. Right? Like a defenseman who can actually play for your team. Because if you couple it with, say, sending Mark Friedman to the minors or Noah Jules to the minors, that's like $3 million you can work with. You can get a decent defenseman for $3 million. Now, there's not a lot left on the market, so we're not talking about necessarily signing a player, but you can start doing some trades and shipping stuff around. And we certainly know that not only is there trader Jim Rutherford, but it is not Pat Alvin, right? Like he likes to move forward and make some moves. So, simply getting Poolman off the books. And then, of course, you could try to accrue some cap space, but getting Poolman off the books creates so many great possibilities for the Vancouver Canucks. And that is probably the reason why Patrick Alvin has not been able to find somebody to take the Poolman problem off his hands.
Okay, Patrick, take your Patrick cap off and put on another Patrick cap. You are Patrick Alvin. You are texting other general managers and you are trying to offload Tucker Poolman. Let's say you were texting Kyle Davidson or whoever, and he says, this is going to cost you a blank. At what point with that reply, what would the price be for you to be okay with moving off of Tucker Poolman?
I mean, what's your I mean, like, listen, the Canucks actually have decent pick value in next year's draft. But I don't think it's been a long story here of not having second round picks. I would advise not stand Pat Alvin to not trade his second round picks in any of the drafts, Scott.
Well, okay, I'll raise. But
other than that, you trade any other pick you can unload: a third round pick, a fourth round pick, a fifth round pick, all of them. Just pick in the first and second rounds. Get rid of all those picks that don't turn into anything, and just move on and get Poolman off the books. Just go to Kyle Davidson and said, "I'll offer you all my picks that aren't 1 or 2 for next year's draft. You can have some fun with it. Go for it. Go,
Patrick,
go."
We talk about the Dallas model a lot on this show, but another thing that Dallas does, people should notice this. They trade every pick except their first round pick. Like every other pick is on the table. Owner Quads loves this. Trade every pick except for your first round pick. Keep your first round pick. Trust that your scouting staff is going to hit on it. And that's why Dallas is Dallas.
Yeah.
Like that's what's led to their success, is trading everything but their first round pick. That's a model I'd like the Canucks to follow. But I'll basically, how I look at this Poolman situation, Patrick, is you look at the asset that you're being asked to give up. Let's say it's a third round pick in this scenario because we don't think it should be a second round pick. Let's say it's a third round pick and you're thinking about a third round pick. Okay, what can you do to improve this team with a third round pick in season? And you basically just have to look at it and say, are we going to get more value by accruing cap space, or are we going to get more value from having this money in LTIR and just keeping Tucker Poolman around and having that money in LTIR? And honestly, I think there's a case to be made that just keeping Tucker Poolman, if it's going to cost you a third round pick, is maybe the way to go. Like, let's not forget, Nikita Zadorov was acquired for a third and a fourth round pick, or was it a third and a fifth? It was 2 later round picks.
Yeah, exactly.
Is my point. So if you're looking at it from that scenario, I'm of the mindset that you may want to actually keep Tucker Poolman if it's going to cost you a 3rd-round pick. It might just be in your best interest to keep Tucker Poolman for a 3rd-round pick, and I certainly don't think you do it if it's a 2nd-round pick for that reason.
Yeah, and like I said, whatever it takes, just make it happen. Don't worry about it. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Here's
just
one.
Make it happen.
Here's one. Patrick Allvin rings up Kyle Davidson. I don't know why we keep using him as an example, but he says, Kyle, I will give you a 5th, 6th, and 7th-round pick. You just take all of them. I don't need any of them. Just take them. Take them all. Take them all for Tucker Poolman. Kyle Davidson says yes. I'm on board with that. Give up those 3 picks. Who cares?
Who knew he was worth all that?
Yeah.
Dough?
Jim Benning knew.
John Weisbrod.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
Can't wait to come back to John Weisbrod later in the show.
Do you want to talk about John Weisbrod right now, Patrick?
No, save it for the order. Don't go away, David. We have a list of stuff.
We do. We have a big show. People don't get this, but we have a big show. It's mid-July, and we have a big.
Hey, Grady, what website is that?
Yes, exactly. Puckpedia.
I wrote about them today. I literally targeted the guy. Story will be up soon. No, I know, Grady. You're supposed to say that on air. I'm giving you a prompt. I don't need
Grady's turning on his mic during the baseball. Grady's at home, so he doesn't want to use his laptop mic, but he's turning on his mic for the baseball trivia. And he's got some questions ready. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Grady's our man. He's going to pull a Steve Harvey, and he's going to come on and give us some questions for the baseball trivia. But Tucker Poolman, yes. Okay, so the 2.5 million.
Steve Harvey mentioned in my life today. The other one was the suit guy talking about Steve Harvey's notion that you can get 75 outfits from 5 suits. Anyway.
I scrolled past that.
Good
what
Twitter
did he
thread.
say about it? Yeah,
it's
what did he say
thread.
about
Basically, he's like, the moral of the story is your suit jacket isn't meant for that. It doesn't work because of fabrics. And it's not bad. I get it. Get a sport coat. He's like, honestly, what Steve Harvey really means is you need to get a couple sport coats, and then you're doing great.
I don't mean to put you on blast, but aren't you a big mix and matcher of your suits?
I am. Yeah, and I understand what I'm doing. I know I'm taking risks when I do it.
So everybody knows this. My fiance Victoria has a fashion degree, and she knows.
Sorry, David, are you getting married?
Yeah, you know that. Yeah.
Oh, really?
And look, I said fiance instead of girlfriend, which I have started to get in the habit of.
It's fun, but it doesn't last for very long. At least it shouldn't.
So
that's the tip out there, fellas.
Yeah, I basically get dressed.
Plan.
And then I show her what I'm wearing, and I say, "Does this work?" And she shows me why it doesn't, and then I go fix it. So it's super easy. I got my little fashion advice right there. Yeah, I gotta say that's a real cheat code. It's just like put something on that I think looks good. Walk outside. Does this look good? It's like no, but you need to change this one thing, and it'll look good. And boom, I look good. So
my wardrobe stinks anyway, so I need to anyway.
Carry on. Okay. Yeah. I forgot about this. Cody, our pal Cody Sievertson, made a Canucks version of Puckpedia for himself. It's his own little webpage. So go find that one out, folks. Maybe I'll post it on Twitter. But
that's
it's really
Cody.
Good. Yeah, really good essential resource, as he called it, in the chat. Okay, Patrick, let's talk about other moves that the Canucks might make. Everybody's looking at this roster and saying, oh, they need to go out and get a puck moving defenseman. As it stands right now, you've got a third pairing of Derek Forbort and Vincent Desharnais, with Noah Juulsen kind of coming in as the 7th defenseman there. Our pal Stéphane Roger over at Canucks Army broke down who was out there, and the term he used was slim pickings remaining beyond Oliver Kylington, who, as we know, wants term on his next deal. Kylington hasn't played much recently, so you always think about that and what that could mean. So I'm just looking at it and saying Oliver Kylington is the best option out there, but depending if the money makes sense, like it seems like we might be headed to a scenario where the money just doesn't make sense for the Canucks to sign a guy like Oliver Kylington to something with term.
He's a guy that I remember thinking, there's an interesting name. What does he, what would he really be willing to do? What kind of role? If you find yourself in this position, right? Like you didn't have someone rushing to your door to sign you on July 1. It is now July 10th, right? Most teams have set things pretty clearly. When he sat down with his agent going into this offseason, what was their target, right? What did he think? What kind of role is he willing to accept? And you look at the Canucks, who I think in their hearts of hearts would love to add another kind of depth puck-moving defenseman. You look at that potential Forbort Desharnais pairing, and you're like, that's given away a lot. can we find someone that we could slot in there that can move the puck a little bit and play with one of those sort of guys that is defense first, generously. And I thought that's an interesting guy. Now, they've already kind of slotted in Mark Friedman as a depth guy. They've obviously got Noah Juleson as a depth guy. I think Shillington is a better sort of he's an option that neither one of those guys provide. But is that a role that he wants to play, or does he see a team? I don't know. I mean, in the end, Utah is going to be adding players, and San Jose is going to be adding players, and are those places that he might want to go. But yeah, he's certainly a name that intrigues me, and going all the way back to his draft year when everybody thought he was an interesting option here as well. I thought, it was going to be difficult. He was always going to go later than the Canucks were picking, but. He's a guy that's intrigued me for a long time, and obviously we've seen him quite a bit playing against the Canucks, and I think in the right role, and I think this team could be a team that would fit him well.
Does Tyson Barrie excite you at all? Like, come on, league minimum Tyson Barrie, local kid, doesn't excite you? Right shot, offense first guy? No,
it's over.
What do you mean it's over? Don't tell me it's over for Tyson. He's 32. He's 32. I'm sorry. Tyson Barrie on a PTO or like a one.
Fine, but I'm just saying, like he does. You asked, the question was, does he excite me? David, he's 33 in 2 weeks.
Oh, whatever. Well, he's still 32 right now.
Like he's in the wrong. It's unfortunate. He's had a heck of a career, right? But like the Predators played him in that one game against the Canucks, and yeah, he got an assist. But like, come on, he played in 41 games for Nashville this year. He was a spare part. What's he going to really do for your team at this point?
Look, Tyson Barrie on a...
He's not going to play on the power play here, so what's the point? So what's the point?
The point is that he can move the puck. He can move the puck. And if you...
he is... Fair enough. He's a year off a 55-point season in Edmonton and Nashville. Fine. Fair enough.
A lot of those came on the power play.
But he's... Nexus 187 is absolutely right. Washed, David. He's washed.
What do washed guys do?
Good guy, living the life.
They sign PTOs and league min deals. If you can get Tyson Barrie on a completely buryable contract, you can just bury them.
If you get him on a league minimum deal, go for it.
So in conclusion, Tyson Barrie does excite you.
No.
Just a name I'm throwing out there. Another name. It's slim pickings. We weren't joking when we said it's slim pickings for the Canucks after this. Other names on the list that Stefan wrote out. John Klingberg, Justin Schultz, Kalen Addison, Ryan Suter, who's 39, Alex Goligoski, 38. Like, these names don't excite me, but they're names that are out there. And Grady had one as well. Grady, you like Gustav Lindstrom. There's a name. Depth defenseman. Like, these are all not names that are going to excite you per se.
Gustav Lindstrom? Why does Gustav Lindstrom excite Grady?
Grady's got to turn on his mic for this one. Grady, why does Gustav Lindstrom excite you?
Like, Jay Fresh's assessment is a depth defenseman says it all. That's enough. What else do you need to know?
He was a plus player on a bad Ducks team last year. He's 6'2", right shot Swedish defenseman. Can move the puck. Hey, these guys aren't going to be winning the Norris, but some friendly competition training camp on the right side.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I'm 100% with Grady on this one. Like,
you need depth, Patrick. You need depth.
Sure. All right, fine. If that's what we're talking about, literally depth defenseman, okay. But the question that David said, does this guy excite you?
Yeah.
No, it's July 10. No.
Oh, whatever.
Come on. Get real.
If you're relying on guys like Gustav Lindstrom to excite you, then your team's in real trouble.
You also know Davis is July 10th, and he's trying to figure out what to talk about. And it's not as terrible fantasy baseball team.
Hachiroku in the chat, but he ain't 6'6". Quads shouldn't be intrigued. That's a good point, but 6'2's close. Like 6'2's close. I think I could work with that. I could work with that kind of size. Okay, let's talk about what's next on my list here. Yeah, okay.
Nexus is right. Boquist would have been nice. That's the thing that I might have gotten excited about.
Yeah. Eric Brandstrom. Absolutely. Eric Brandstrom as well.
Big fan of Nexus 187 today. Big fan.
Nexus is great. Nexus is a friend of Wyatt's. They play Warzone. I played Warzone with Nexus. Anyways, I'm not very good at Warzone. I don't play it anymore.
Yeah, that's true, Jay. Absolutely.
dog days of summer talking about what hat Patrick was wearing. I'm just curious. I'm curious what kind of hats Patrick Alvin wears, but he's a total. As soon as you said it,
are you gonna tell your fiance this is what Alvin was wearing? What do you think? Is that what it was?
That's true. I could do that too. I don't usually put people on blast like that, but I totally saw it as soon as you said golf hat. I totally see that it'd be a golf hat. Like he's a total golf hat guy. Like he's not rolling up with a yellow Oakland A's hat right here, Patrick.
It makes me sad, Dave. Don't do that.
Well, don't
make me sad.
I like the swinging A's.
Well, it's depressing. Don't bring that up. Move on.
I like the team. I like the fans. I don't like the ownership. Okay. Kevin Tyrion in the chat here. Tyson
Tyrion.
He's too soft. No others on the list. Missed out on Boakfist. Yeah, it might just come down to that the Canucks did just miss out on their guy. But look, there's still options out there to go sign to those PTOs, those late summer contracts. Let's not forget Pia Suter was signed while I was at the Greater Vancouver Zoo in August, and that signing came down in like late August. These can happen. So I'm curious what's going to happen. And Kevin in another comment said need a legit second pairing right side defenseman. I'm going to go out and say it, like that's not going to happen. Like they're not going to sign anybody other than a depth defenseman. I don't think.
Like I said, if they can make some changes happen, if they get off Poolman somehow, I think there might be something bigger they go after. I think they're, for the most part, mostly done. I think if there's anything else that happens here, they're like slim pickings. You took the words out of my mouth. There's no other words to describe it. The roster, for the most part, is set. I mean, they have hope. They do have some hopes. Let's put it this way. I didn't really hype on it at the time. And I'm not sure what to make of it even now. But last month, Jim Rutherford talked to Ian McIntyre and mentioned how he thought, oh, maybe there's a chance Lekkerimäki makes it out of training camp. And you're just like, come on. Like, no, the kid needs to play NHL. But obviously, that's a discussion point they've had. There's a lot of what ifs. They would love it if Elias Pettersson all of a sudden turned into an NHL defenseman. I don't think he's going to be an NHL defenseman that fast. I think he still needs some work, right?
Dave Hall would agree with you.
What's that?
Dave Hall, our prospect guy, he would agree with you. That's his
close.
Yeah, that's our
close. They're definitely like. It's not an accident that they've talked about him and that they got him over here last spring. Like they want to see him turn into something. With
Lekkerimäki, like I wrote about this recently too. The way I would handle Lekkerimäki, the way I would advise handling Lekkerimäki is just give him a run with Elias Pettersson in training camp. If Linus Karlsson can get a run with Elias Pettersson in training camp, so can Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Give him a real run with Elias Pettersson on his wing, because that's where he's going to play. If he makes the team, like that's where he's going to play. That's where he should play. Further to my point, if you realize, okay, we can't trust him defensively, we don't think he's quite ready, he needs some AHL seasoning, don't do the Vasily Podkolzin thing where he bounces up and down the lineup. It's, are you a top six winger? No? Okay, go be a top six winger in the AHL. You are going to be a top six winger. It is going to be somewhere else. We are not trying to turn Jonathan Lekkerimäki into a bottom six winger. I don't like the idea even of him playing on the fourth line or third line being, oh, he can get soft matchups. No, don't do that to him. Put him in the AHL. Let him play there. You've got guys who can play in the bottom six that Rick Tocchet's going to trust.
Right.
Don't try to make Jonathan Lekkerimäki something he's not. Let him have the shot to play in the top six out of training camp. If he does, like Podkolzin was in the top six last year in training camp, and they quickly realized that wasn't going to work. They put him in the AHL. Slightly different situation here. I get that, but give Lekkerimäki the chance to play in the top six in the preseason. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Put him in the AHL. Don't do this thing where it's like, well, he was okay, so we're going to put him on the third line or the fourth line. Don't do that. You've got your third line figured out with Joshua Garland. Just put Lekkerimäki in the AHL. It's not even a problem for this team. If he does, like they're not banking on Lekkerimäki making the team out of camp. If he does, it's found money, but they're not banking on it, and that's a good position for them to be in. Recognize that you have that position, put him in the AHL, let him play top 6 minutes, wherever it is.
Exactly. And it's that I guess the only thing I'm kind of cautious about is that we have seen this kind of talk before. Now, I think the circumstances are different, but you can think about defense prospects who we don't still know a lot about, who we're kind of intrigued by going back a decade. You think about guys like, I don't know, Jordan Subban.
There's a name.
Right? But there was a lot of hype and people were like, oh yeah. And then he topped out and that was it. Now, the system, the setup then was very different from what it is now. There's a lot more support for these guys. There's a lot more hands-on. They're so much closer to the NHL team. There's a lot more coordination between coaching staffs. There's a GM who actually knows where the farm team is. So it is a bit different, right? But again, you have to remember the adage that goes to, I think it's Reese Jessup, who now works for the Hurricanes, but former Canucks Army editor-in-chief, who said, all prospects are bad. They all stink. And then one of them proves you wrong. And so that's where we're at. That's the thing I always remind people.
Yep. That's a common theme with Canucks Army managing editors, because that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. Don't try to put them in square pegs. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to get to anyone else. Patrick, get ready for the show, because you're about to sit through three ad reads. I usually get Harmon to do one of these, but I'm going to crank them all out right now.
I can do one. I'm ready to do one. You just haven't given me anything to read.
You know what? I'll give you a great one. I'll give you the best one. You get to do this one, and I'll tell you. I'll tell you when to read it. It's in the chat there. It's in the private chat for you. You can start memorizing your script, thinking about your.
This is beautiful. I'm ready.
Yeah, you get to do it whenever you want. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll give you your cue. I'll give you your cue first. I'm going to talk to you about the Vancouver Bandits. The Vancouver Bandits are fighting for first place in the West, currently sitting with a 10-4 record, right on the tail of the 11-4 Edmonton Stingers. Right on the stinger, one might say. The Bandits are home this Saturday against the Winnipeg Sea Bears, and there's no better time to get out to the Langley Event Center. Take a start at just $20 to get your hands on yours, and for more info, go to, get ready for this URL, thebandits.ca. Now, I also want to talk to you about Four Winds Brewing, more specifically, Velo. If you're looking for an easy drinking beer that will quench your thirst after a day on the ice or on the golf course, Velo is perfect for you. This American Pale Ale is brewed with fresh squeezed lemon juice and pink Himalayan salt. Citrusy and refreshing, Velo is like the sports drink of beers, and at only 4.5%, it won't weigh you down either. You can grab yourself a 6-pack of Velo at select liquor stores across BC, or for home delivery through the online shop at fourwindsbrewing.ca. Locally owned and operated in Delta, British Columbia. Now,
David, are you sure it's not Velo? Like Velo en français? No?
It is. That's how I say it. That's
Velo?
I said Velo.
Velo.
Maybe you're doing a little more. Velo. It's Velo.
Okay. All right.
It has the accent. That's what tells me it's Velo.
Okay, you're getting close.
You're saying it a little more French than I am, and I definitely said Velo on the second time. But
you said Velo. Okay, thank you for admitting that. I'm glad. There you go. That's the sign of a good leader. He can admit his mistakes.
Speaking of Velo, some good prospects out there at the net. It's time for anyone else, which is brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Take it away, Patrick.
Vancouver Canadians are on the road. We'll be back home on July 19th for a 3-game set that includes a nooner at the net. David, you got to do nooners at the net. Please tell me you do. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, all the time. All the time.
A fireworks extravaganza. Have you done the fireworks extravaganza at the net?
I've never been to a fireworks extravaganza.
Take your fiance. You'll have a lovely time. And Family Fun Sunday. I can tell you Family Fun Sundays are fantastic. Both my girls went around the bases after the game. It's an absolute blast. You can make some incredible videos of your kids running. This is just me making this up. Back to the read. They'll then be back on July 30th for 12 straight at Nat Bailey. These games are sure to be packed, so get your tickets early. That's true. Don't wait. Call 604-872-5232 or go to CanadiansBaseball.com.
That was fantastic. That was phenomenal, Patrick. Look at you. Trained multimedia journalist, jack of all trades, Patrick Johnston.
Well, the copy's good. Whoever wrote the copy did a good job. Nice.
Trevor Martins. You know Trevor. Trevor Martins. It's our dog.
Like he's done it before.
Shout out. Trevor Martins.
Shout out TSN 10.
One take wonder, PJ. Look at
there
that.
You go.
Yeah, boys.
Okay.
With
it's anyone else.
Editorializing. Annotated as well.
Okay, so we've all got something to talk about. I want to talk about the ESPN rankings. Patrick, you wanted to talk about John Weisbrod, which we'll let you do. And Grady, you've got the baseball quiz queued up. We're going to finish with the baseball quiz. So let's start with this story. The ESPN power rankings that came out recently. Patrick, you actually sent these to me. They have the Vancouver
Trying
Canucks.
to help you out.
I love it. They have the Vancouver Canucks ranked 9th. They've got the Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers ranked 1st and 2nd, respectively. No real surprise there. They've got the Canucks 9th. Right in front of them the Nashville Predators, who were at 11th on the previous ranking, and right behind the Canucks are the Toronto Maple Leafs. When they put the Canucks at 9, the reasoning for it, they talk about the ex-Bruins that have found their way to the Pacific Northwest. And the really good point that I thought was made was that all of these guys have played in the playoffs, right? Like Denton Heinen, Derek Forbort. Say what you will about the Bruins. That organization makes the playoffs. Like, that's just what they do. And those guys are coming from that environment. They're battle tested. Put any cliche you want. They've played in the playoffs, and the Canucks bring in 3 of those guys.
I'm most intrigued by Denton Heinen. He's a player that interestingly enough, John Weisbrod and Jim Benning were interested in 3 years ago. I think he finally found. He's been a scorer. He's done a good job that way. I think he finally came into his own as a complete player in Boston. What a shock! An organization that I know it's hard for Vancouver fans to accept, but has done a good job for a long time of helping players round out their game. Of course, the card is looking at is Jake DeBrusk, not who I'm talking about right now. But Heinen's the one that I think is the undercard here. DeBrusk is fantastic. Listen, don't get me wrong. DeBrusk was great. But Heinen, I'm really kind of intrigued by. I'm intrigued to see where he slots into the lineup. I mean, you can see the space with presumably Miller and Besser. Although, will Nils Höglander end up? Will somebody else end up there? But Heinen is an interesting player. Can handle the puck. Can put the puck in the net. Pittsburgh, did some interesting things in Pittsburgh. He's a bit of a challenging player to understand because obviously had that good first season in Boston, stumbled around a little bit, ended up on a not very good team in Anaheim. I don't blame him for struggling there, but has found his way again and rediscovered himself back in Boston where it all started. Forbort, fine, the hard guy to play against, kind of classic kind of guy, very much an LA Kings type player. The Canucks did well with him. I'm curious about the cap hit, whether that tells us they're going to get great value out of him because he's cheap, or whether that's just a sign of a times of player. Like he is 32. I was just ripping on up the defenseman for being 32. I think he's fine. He'll be fine.
The way I've described Derek Forbort since they signed that contract was he's cheaper and younger Ian Cole. Like really similar on ice results. Ian Cole's got $3.1 million on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, but of course, I was a big Ian Cole defender. I'm just anxious about the comparison because, in the end, Ian Cole's play came to such a crashing halt over the end of the season. Now, we know he was dealing with a bit of an injury. But you just knew that wasn't going to sustain itself. That there was going to be problems going on and on and on. And so, listen, you could do a lot worse. I think he was a better pickup than Desharnais. But we're talking about third pairing defensemen here. So let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. The thing I wanted to talk about with this ESPN ranking was their ranking of the Nashville Predators at number 8. The Preds committed a lot of money. They get Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, and Brady Shea as well. Yeah. Those are their big additions of the offseason. Am I the only one that looks at this Nashville team and says, I don't know if they're that much more, are they that much more scary with those 3 guys added to their team?
They certainly improved their team. There were things that were interesting about Nashville for sure. That even last season, I never had doubt that the Canucks would beat Nashville. I knew that Nashville had a strong second half. They were doing things a lot better in the second half than they did in the first half. But at the end of the day, they were lacking some finishing punch. They have some finishing punch now. Now, Stamkos is an older player. He's not what he used to be. And I think Nashville are better. I don't think they're substantially better, but they're certainly more. I think they're going to play more interesting stuff. Andrew Brunette is an interesting coach. And I think I'm intrigued to see what he does with the changes they've made. That's, in the end, more probably in line with the kind of lineup he would like to have in an ideal world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting one to look at. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the rest of this ranking for the Pacific Division.
Right.
Only Pacific team ahead of the Canucks on the rankings are the Edmonton Oilers. The rest of Pacific, you got the Vegas Golden Knights at 12th, LA Kings at 14th, and then like we know the Seattle Kraken, Calgary Flames, San Jose Sharks, Anaheim Ducks. They're not going to be good teams this year. The Kraken maybe surprise everybody, but they're probably not going to be a very good team this year. So ultimately, one of the takeaways I have from these rankings is the Pacific's wide open for the Canucks to just stay at the top. Like it should be a battle between them and the Oilers. I think the Kings had the worst offseason of any team in the league. Maybe that's a little bold, but they didn't have a good offseason. Like they committed money to players who are going to marginally improve the team, and now they don't have a ton of cap space, and now all their guys are getting older too. So I don't like what the Kings did this offseason at all. I definitely don't think they're a better team than they were last year. And ultimately, that's what you're looking at if you're a Canucks fan is like, okay, what's our path to contention? What's our path to making the playoffs? That's it. You're in a weak division. Like you should be able to lock down a top 3 spot if you're the Canucks.
I'm not the first person to point this out, but the Kings in the end are such an example of just having sort of cap space and a bit of room to work with doesn't prevent you from making some serious mistakes. And they made some serious mistakes. Obviously, the PLD was a big part of that story, making that choice. They don't have that center. That was the center they picked. They don't have that center anymore. They're resetting a little bit. They've got a bit of a cap hell scenario coming down the stretch there. Like they couldn't make any changes last season to a lineup that needed more. And listen, they were not a terribly interesting team in the playoffs. They still almost beat the Oilers. The reason why the Oilers beat them was special teams.
Yep.
Which is not a shock, right? But at 5-on-5, they battled Edmonton to a draw. They were a tough team for this Canucks team to break down the stretch. So there's a lot there. But at the end of the day, I go back. Listen, I wrote about this on the weekend. Jay Fresh projects the Canucks to have 111 points next year, tied with Edmonton in first place. Which maybe is surprising, but that's a statement about what smart people in hockey will tell you, which is that defense has really gone out the window. And if you can score goals, that's going to solve a lot of problems. Obviously, you need to be good enough at defending your own end to make a difference. But the Canucks are well positioned to keep doing that. I'm not sure LA, for instance, is as good a position. They've obviously still got some interesting kids there. But you look at that blue line, Drew Doughty's older, Gavrikov is older. You know, they're moving in a direction that is maybe up a little bit, but they're certainly not rocketing to the moon. They are kind of where they're going to be now. And Edmonton obviously got a lot better. There's a lot in there for what they were trying to do. The Canucks are going to have to battle it out. I don't think there's a whole lot else in this division. It's interesting how this division that we thought for a while was going to be really tough last season has really kind of slumped. It's kind of turned into 2 teams, then maybe a third team. I mean, Vegas obviously is going to be a factor. They're always going to be a factor here. Certainly getting a longer off season. You know that they are a reminder why it's so hard to repeat in this league. They had almost, you have such little time to recover. You have no time to recover during the season. And then when you win the Stanley Cup, you have less time to recover in the offseason. And it's a tough, demanding, physically challenging game. And if you don't have time to recover, it's really hard to sustain what you're sustaining. They figured it out enough, but I wasn't surprised to see them hit the wall the way they did.
You bring up a really good point about the scoring being the most important thing. And I think that's why if you're a Canucks fan, you're looking at it and saying, okay, they've addressed the up front. They've improved the team at the forward position. Maybe they took a step back on defense, but this team does believe that their coaching staff is going to be able to get those defensemen that they've brought in to about the same level that they were having last year with the defense core that they had. So it's just an interesting way to look at it is, look, if you're trying to figure out if the Canucks improved in free agency, like I have all these people in my mentions and stuff being like, oh, you're not calling out the Canucks for not improving. I don't like what they did on defense. Like I've said that more than once. I don't like what they did on defense, but I like what they did on offense a lot more. And if it were reversed and they only addressed defense and then made some marginal moves at offense, I'd be calling them out a hell of a lot more. If they have to choose, are we going to improve at the forward position or the defensive position more? I like that they prioritize forward. I like that they let Ian Cole walk. I like that they're trusting their coaching staff to make these guys better than they look like they should be on paper. Again, Is it the most ideal situation? No, but with what they had to work with, I like that they prioritize the forward position. And again, you look at a team like LA and you say, this is an example of why we want to be like this. And look, the Oilers as well. They score a ton. That's what got them to the Cup final, right? Is they can score a ton. They maybe don't have world beaters, to put it lightly, on defense and in goal, but they got there. And I like how the Canucks have positioned themselves heading into next season.
Couple of questions here. Our pal Cody Severson asking, should the Canucks sign Slim Pickens? I think that's a brilliant idea, just because they'd have some incredible potential to build out some movies. With Gabe Entertainment boss Mike Poorley bringing in a Hollywood legend like Slim Pickens. David doesn't even know who Slim Pickens actually is.
That's a person? No, it's not.
Oh yeah. It's a fabulous comic actor from the 60s. But more seriously, Oznuck AE, are any of the Abby D being considered for a promo? Brisebois, Hirose, McCord. Okay, let's be clear. Guillaume Brisebois, I was very pleased to see him get back on the ice last year. We were really convinced at Christmas time that it might be done. We had seen him around, but he clearly had a serious concussion, was dealing with problems. That he got back on the ice was wonderful. So that's great. He was signed 2 years ago to be kind of a good organizational soldier. He was never going to be, he might have ended up with the Mark Friedman job, right? Like, he's not a guy that you're leaning on to be something. Akito Hirose is still around. But I will just say this. I'm fully convinced that this coaching staff is anxious about his durability. He's not a big guy. He's got some skills, but he is what he is. Like, he was 25 when they signed him?
Yeah. 24.
Like, he's not a prospect. He's a guy. And could he play a few more games? Sure. I don't think there's just no more growth as a player there. And I think there were some injury concerns during the season. So no, I don't think he's a really kind of a guy that's going to end up overhauling anybody that's already here. Cole McWard, I think they're still interested in. We did hear his name mentioned by Patrick Allvin in when I asked about sort of defense plans and whether they might try to sign somebody else. It was a bit of a veiled question about Tyler Myers. But they like the player. He's still relatively young, though he's at 22, 23. I think we're kind of, it's kind of there. We might see him. He might grow up, but realistically, there's a 6'7" guy. Like, he's not a big star.
Yep, absolutely.
Do we want to talk about my 10 things? Are we going there, or my 10 years thing?
Yes, I just want to get to this one from Nick. How do you say this guy's last name? You said he had an uncle or something that played. Nick Pochek,
Rudy Pochek.
Yeah, Pochek. Okay. Nick Pochek in the chat. I think every year Adam Foote should get a project D-man like Clark does with the goalie. Ian Clark gets a project goalie every year. Give Adam Foote a project.
Don't overcook things here, guys. Come on.
I like that comment.
Listen, they're good coaches. They figured some stuff out. They can make you marginally better, but they're not turning David Quadrelli into an NHL defenseman. Let's be
let's not
David can't even skate. Actually,
I can skate. I can skate so well. I just can't skate backwards. So maybe Adam Foote, Adam Foote could teach me how to skate backwards.
Then that's all it's missing.
I really can't skate backwards. Like, I can do it, but so slowly. Like, I can physically do it, but just I'm so slow and I don't know why. But anyways, let's move on. Okay, Ty David, how confident are you that Pods can get that fourth line spot out of camp? I keep saying this, like, I don't know why Vasily Podkolzin hasn't been giving penalty killing opportunities. That's what he's going to be if he's going to be an NHLer. He's going to be a bottom six guy who can maybe chip in on offense once in a while. But no, I don't think so. Like, I'm looking at the Canucks bottom six, and I don't think Vasily Podkolzin is the inside track on that spot at all. Like, you've got Kiefer Sherwood now as well. So again, I don't think he has that fourth line spot out of camp. Like, I'm not confident, I'll say. Like, he could do it, and I hope he does it. He's a great guy. Love Vasily Podkolzin. But I'm not confident by any means that he's going to come in and steal that spot.
Are you waiting for me to say more things about Vasily?
Do you have anything else to say? Like, if you just... Yeah.
Good guy. He could solve a lot of questions if he finally kind of puts it all together and just plays like himself and gets... he got so systems overwhelmed playing in Russia after being drafted. I mentioned this on S&P. I mean, I think the current management group was shocked to discover that he had been left in Russia for 2 years and just kind of withered away at the end of the bench. and then has had 3 coaches in the NHL. And then, the number one task has been clear from the message from the organization is we just want you to play. Just be you, be the guy. And I think he obviously is still learning that, because in the end, he didn't score down the stretch. He played in the NHL and they were happy. He didn't hurt them, but he took sort of the system's choice too often and not the let's see if I can beat this guy choice. And they would like to see a little more of that. So if he can find that way, sure, he becomes an X factor for this roster. But as it stands, you should take the conservative approach, which is that he's going to be battling for 4th line minutes.
Okay, so this is a really good comment from Bob Bluger in the YouTube chat, Patrick. At first, I was thinking he was saying I haven't developed, because he said quads haven't developed. So I thought he was trying to say like quads hasn't developed, and that's why Adam Foote could still turn something into me. I think he's answering my question of why I can't skate backwards fast. He's saying that my quads, my muscle,
you literally
haven't developed yet. And I think he might be
because you're
right.
just still a young boy.
I very admittedly don't work on my legs very much in the gym. I'm very open about that. I go on runs now because I was really out of shape. I realized I would get out of breath really fast. So I go on runs and I hit the treadmill. I do cardio a lot, but I don't I don't squat. Like I don't do big stuff like that. I do mostly with my legs. I'm doing stuff for like flexibility and range of motion, because my hips are hurting and I'm only 24. Like I shouldn't be having this pain. So anyways,
Your main problem with quads is that you don't like running. You just need to run more, dude.
Well, I like running now. I do run. I just can't do it for very long.
Well, that's practice. You got to practice. It's not silly as it sounds. You got to practice running.
Getting better. I'm getting better.
Better.
Okay. Right. Let's wrap up. Anyone else with our baseball quiz? Oh no, you wanted to, sorry, Patrick, you had something.
We were just having some fun. I was just saying, listen, like one of the things when you're sitting here in the middle of July and you're trying to think what things to write about, I like to go back and look in our archives and see about things that we used to do. What are things we were writing about 10 years ago? So I did find myself landing on July 8th in the province, 2014. My colleague Ben Kuzma breaking the news that the Canucks were going to hire John Weisbrod. And, this is how I wanted to say also a reminder of how it used to be. We're so lucky as guys who cover the team, fans are so lucky because they get to see wins. But, here's the headline. Lone Wolf Benning adds some bite. Canucks notebook. GM hires familiar face Weisbrod and player personnel. And you're just like, everything that was to come right there. That happened this week, 10 years ago. It's where we've been. It's amazing to think about how bizarre the journey has been to get to where we are now. Hopefully people learn some lessons from what did and did not happen under those two. And I would say, you don't want to butter up, but I would say this to Canucks then. Things are a lot better now than they were. They were then, and we had no idea then how bad things were going to get. So feel good about yourself. Feel good, Canucks fans. Things might be actually okay.
Finishing off, anyone else with a hot take? Things are better now than they were then. I love it, Patrick. Let's get to our baseball quiz, which Grady has prepared for us. Grady, give you some. I guess we don't have music, but pretend I just played some game show music. Take it away.
Yes. Well, last week's hit with Harmon went so awesome that we decided to
roll it back.
Yeah, a couple questions here for PJ, who's actually a baseball guy, and I know has followed the sport pretty closely, likes the Oakland A's and Moneyball.
Yeah.
So we have 6 questions here, and one being about the team of the hat that I'm wearing right here, the Montreal Expos. We're going to start it off with, I think, something that might throw some people off that know this team well, but who is the all-time hits leader, PJ, for the Montreal Expos?
Sorry, can I chime in? Can we
yes.
Can we just yell out the answer if we know it?
Do you know it?
It's Andre Dawson.
Can I make a guess? Let us both make a guess.
Okay.
What was it? Did you say it, Dave, or no?
Isn't it
no.
Andre?
It's not Andre. No, it's
no
not
looking
Andre.
it up. We can't look it up.
No, it's not Andre. It's got to be someone. I want to say Vladdy Guerrero, but he struck out too much. It's got to be a guy who made a lot of contact. It's going to be a guy who's there for quite a while too. So it could be like Jose Vidro. Is it somebody like that?
He was, I think, 6. He was lower on the list.
Okay.
So we're going for Tim Raines.
Tim Raines is second.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Number
that's
one.
who I thought too.
Number one. Who could it
Okay.
be?
I'm sorry. We've thrown out Andre Dawson, Tim Raines, Vladimir Guerrero.
Is it Andres Galarraga?
No.
Okay, who is it? I give it.
Yeah,
Tim Wallach.
Tim Wallach.
Yeah.
Third baseman of the 80s. There you go.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So we're kind of working through that era here, which I imagine when you started following the sport, PJ, and into the 90s and 2000s. So
okay. All right.
Next question is, this New York Yankees second baseman had to change positions later in his career because he couldn't make a throw to first base anymore after getting the yips.
Alfonso Soriano.
That's a good guess because he
good
did
one.
change to when he went to the Cubs. I think he started playing outfield. I'll give you a clue.
Yeah.
There's an NHL coach with the same last name who is hired in season.
Ooh,
Did
boy.
he? Oh no! Wait. Okay. Wait. Which position did he go play? Did he go play first?
No, he went to the outfield. I think right field, I want to say.
Okay.
New York Yankees was there when they won the World Series. He's like famously got the yips.
Oh, Chuck Knobloch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you'll get this one. Canadian pitcher from Victoria who pitched for the A's, Cubs, and Rangers.
Rich Harden.
Yeah. Very good.
Nice.
Who are the 3 Canadians to win an ML MVP award in either league?
Larry
Let's
Walker.
let Quads do this one first.
Larry Walker's won an MVP.
Yep.
I drove by his field recently.
Who? Larry Walker?
No.
Ryan
I
Dempster.
once played it. Ryan Dempster won it. No.
No.
Get real.
No, wait. Did Morneau ever win an MVP?
That's correct. You got
That's
2.
wild. Justin Morneau. All I
Yeah.
remember, I'm gonna be completely honest. All I remember from Justin Morneau is just him being extremely washed. I'm not gonna lie. Like that's my memory of Justin Morneau. Even though, look, big shout out Morneau family. His dad, he's the 50-50 guy at Colton Express games. Love his dad. Love Justin Morneau too. But all I remember from my baseball watching days are like Justin Morneau just being in the twilight of his career. Okay,
Yeah.
so I have Morneau, Larry Walker.
One more. The most recent one.
Most
And he's
recent
still
Canadian.
playing, but he's not on the MLB roster.
Most recent Canadian to win.
You're gonna be upsetting
Win.
yourself. Joey Votto.
Oh wow! I was gonna guess Freddie Freeman, but obviously he's still there.
Yeah.
And I also don't know if he's actually won an MVP.
I don't think he has.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
Okay, next one. So these 2 players shared the same name, albeit spelled differently, and were both considered 2 of the top power hitters in baseball from about 2012 to 2018 for the Baltimore Orioles and the Oakland A's, respectively. Who are they?
Say that again.
So they're they're 2 power hitters who had the same name but spelled differently.
First and last name are the same.
First and last name are the same. but
Spelled
the
differently.
First name is spelled differently. One is spelled with a C. One is spelled with
Chris Carter.
nope. Close. You got the
Chris
first.
Davis. Chris
Chris
Davis.
Davis and Chris, Davis.
There it is.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Final one. Name the 4 Blue Jays that have won the Cy Young Award for a total of 5 times.
Roy Halladay.
Pat Hankin, Roger Clemens, and
Most recent.
Gaussman. Wasn't it Gaussman?
He's did he win last year?
No.
No, I
Gosman
don't
hasn't
think he
won a
won.
Cy Young. No.
Oh no. Robbie Ray.
Yeah, Robbie.
There it is.
There it is.
Come on, Quads. You're a Mariners fan.
Yeah, and Robbie Ray pitched like 10 games before going on the shelf and never
Famously
returning.
going on the shelf. Good
Yeah.
job, Seattle.
There
The
you
one
go.
time the Mariners pay up, it's for that guy. Anyways,
True, they paid up for Robbie Cano. You were a young child when that happened.
yeah, and how did that work out?
I know.
This is what
That
I'm
was
saying.
that was the other time they paid up.
Yeah, and now I'm stuck with Colton Wong, Mitch
They
Garver.
paid up for
Jorge
Julio.
Poole.
You got Julio. Come on.
Yeah, okay. How's that gone so far this year?
Great pitching and they can't hit.
Anyways, although they're back. You see last game, 7-0. I know, Patrick, you got to run. That's my bet 365 bet of the day. So I'll spare you that. But
What?
it is
Because
all
they
about
won,
winning.
so you should put money down on them. Great
We are-
advice, Dave.
Vibes. Pure
we are-
vibes.
So back. Julio has been back. Julio's been back. Like certifiably, he's been back. You can see it. You can see it in the body language. I know the game, Patrick. I know
Just
the
wait,
game.
just wait
All
for the Mariners to acquire Vladdy quads, and then you won't
There
know
you
what to do.
Lou Bob, Vladdy, you're getting them all. Getting them all. The Seattle Mariners. You know what's awesome? Our numbers haven't dipped since we started talking about baseball, which usually happens, but people are locked in. It's July. I'm telling you, people are watching
It's
baseball.
my read. It was my Canadians read. They stuck around. They
Yeah.
wanted to see.
That's right. And people can go watch baseball locally with the Vancouver Canadians. Patrick, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for
really
having me, Dave.
appreciate your time today. And we will, we'll cut you loose. Thanks.
Okay, bud.
There he is. Patrick Johnston of the province, who was my co-host today, took his time, and we really appreciated it. That was a fun segment. The baseball segment is always a lot of fun, but let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you by, you guessed it, Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. Our bet today is Bryce Miller, the starting pitcher today for the Seattle Mariners, to record 6+ punch-outs against the San Diego Padres, another one of my teams, at plus 475 odds. These are absolutely juiced odds. 6+ strikeouts for Bryce Miller of the Mariners. And as I said, the Mariners offense is also back, but that has nothing to do with this bet. Yeah, you can get Bryce Miller 6+ punch-outs against the Padres tonight at plus 475 odds over at Bet365. Must be 19+ to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. We'll close it out there. Stay safe out there, folks. It is hot as hell out there. We'll close it out there, though, for my co-host and our technical producer, Grady Sass. My name is Dave Cogelli. Thank you so much for listening to the episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.